every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
Are you feeling stuck with outdated mortgage processes? Tired of the endless wait times and manual errors? Well, please meet Clear Closer, the game changer for mortgage pros. Clear Closer takes the hassle out of loan origination, secondary market trading, and securitization with cutting-edge digital tools. Picture this. Real-time data and valuations right at your fingertips, all managed by their smart AI underwriter. No more hurry up and wait when submitting closing conditions. AI handles it all instantly. Upgrade your workflow, ditch the delays, and get ahead with Clear Closer. Check us out at clearcloser.com. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the fabulous Michelle Berman-Mikel. She is the CEO of Berman Media and the creator of Beyond the Method. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to hear your insights and wisdom that you're going to share. The way that we kick it off is we'd like you to think about what was one of the best pieces of advice that you have ever received. And if it was from an individual, by all means, please give them a shout out.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. It's crazy. I think a lot of times when we've been in business, as long as we have, sometimes they seem to stack, right? You kind of get a couple of different pieces of advice over the years that sort of accumulate into one big giant piece of advice that you feel like you're sort of doing really consistently. And so there's two that I'll give you, but they're really the same. And it started back in July of 2019. A mutual friend of ours, Phil Treadwell, who's a very good friend of mine, somebody that I really rely on heavily when I'm making big decisions for anything, right? Strategic partnerships, whatever it might be. It's sort of a, hey, Phil, what do you think? And still to this day, right? And that's amazing to have that. But I remember when we first met, I had asked him to go on his podcast. He had no idea who I was. It was one of those, like, I was sort of shooting my shot with him. And it ended up being the very first podcast that I was ever on in my career when I had launched Beyond the Method. But I got an email from him afterwards that is still saved in my inbox, starred, is there whenever am having a day or sort of need the reminder. And it's that give everything away for free, right? Offer to go on as many podcasts, go on as many webinars, do as many things as you can and do it for free. And I remember in the moment being like, why would someone who's, so successful be telling me, who I'm trying to be successful in 2019, right? You're launching, like, I'm trying to be successful. So why would I go out and do all of these things for free? And I remember realizing it in the moment, or maybe not exactly in the specific moment, but sort of as I started to reflect back on it, that what he was essentially saying is, nobody can do what I'm doing the way that I do it. And he saw that in me. And with that, he was like, who cares if they have that knowledge, right? They're not going to be able to do anything with it because they're not you. And I said, okay, I believe you. And fast forward to today, the second piece is from my business coach. His name is Grant Wise. Truly one of the best humans on this planet. I really believe that. But his advice to me compounds with that, which is every single day I have one job, which is to find a new relationship that day that can either create a new opportunity or further an existing one. And I've really taken that to heart. And honestly, the last 365 days, if I look at it from a year ago to today, it's so incredibly true. If we just wake up every day and we say, my job is to go find a new relationship, build a bridge to someone that, like you, Laura, right? I knew you went to Rutgers. I went to Rutgers. I looked at our mutual friends list. I was like, how the heck do we not know each other?
Very true.
And I decided to build the bridge. So both of those things compounded into that. And I hope that answers your question, but
it completely answers my question. And it's funny, I could have given that exact same advice. Like, it's funny how similar people are. And that's what I love about doing podcasts, because, and I always tell people, number one, I tell everyone you should have a podcast. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your role is. I don't care what you're doing in life. Doing a podcast serves both sides, right? Like, yes, I'm going to spotlight you when I put this out, absolutely. But the knowledge that I gain, it's not even necessarily something that I don't know. It's the reminder I need to hear, right? Like what you just said, I 100% follow that same philosophy, but I don't really necessarily think about it anymore because I've been doing it so long that it's just innate now. Like I don't think to myself about give it away for free because that's just who I've always been. I've always been the giver, the servant leader. So I've always lived that. But yet you realize that you have to be intentional about it, right? To your point, you're intentional about it. And that's the reminder to everyone out there that we have to be intentional about what we're giving to others. And we have to be extremely intentional about those connections. What you said, so everybody out there, Michelle reached out to me on LinkedIn and she said, hey, I noticed all these similar connections that we have. We went to the same college. How do we not know each other? How have we not had a conversation? And for everyone out there, I've said this before, I have a rule that if someone wants to get on the phone with me, I will give anyone 15 minutes, regardless of what you want to try to sell me, regardless of what the pitch is, no matter what it is, because I believe the value in our lives are the people that we're connected to. Some will be immediate connection. Some will be, oh, well, I met that. I just got off a call. No joke. I just got off a call with a young lady. Okay. And her and I are going to be working on a project together. And I said to her, her name was Ashley. I said, Ashley, do you know who I am in the industry? And she said to me, Laura, 10 years ago, you helped my company where we were struggling on something at the company that I owned. I didn't recall her name, but now and here we are 10 years later, working on a project together, right? So to your point, Michelle, what you just said, everyone needs to take notice. Everyone needs to write that down, but be intentional about it. So I want to hear, Michelle.
Yep.
How do you take those two premises and apply it? You had said, if you look back 365 days, you've met all these different people. And in terms of, I'm doing this webinar and I'm giving away this and I'm speaking that. What does your week look like? What does your day look like? What does your planning look like in terms of your strategy of how you're applying that great advice?
Yeah, it's another great question. And I think that this is, it's honestly, I'm really grateful for this interview because I think most of the times I go on podcasts, right, you're sort of talking about what you do every day. And I think sometimes we forget to remember, what do we do to get that opportunity every single day? Like, what are our systems to be able to have that opportunity? And so I love sharing my daily sort of strategy, if you will, as well as sort of like what my week looks like. And I had somebody reach out to me the other day and she was like, why are you up so early every morning? Cause like I sent her an email at like 4:25 in the morning. And I also saw a meme that one of my clients posted that said something about like, once you hit the age of 35, if any of your friends text you at 10:15, they can expect a text and reply at like 5 a.m. Like I've officially arrived at being old, right? Well, honestly, that's my life. Like I've always been a very early riser. I also swam competitively for 20 plus years, and at Rutgers, right, practice was at 5 a.m. We didn't really have a choice but to be early people. And then fast forward to my CrossFit career, same thing. I trained at 5 a.m., worked all day, went back and usually trained again in the afternoon. But for me right now, today, in order to apply the find one new relationship every day, my structure is I'm up at 4:20 every morning. My alarm typically goes off right at 4:20. A lot of the times my brain is already awake before that, which I'm sure we all have experienced. So I get up, I make my husband coffee, which I love. I love that 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just him and I being able to make coffee for each other. And then he actually heads off to work. So he works for the military and works on base. So he gets there very early. But I then sit down, drink my coffee, and I start. So Mondays is my favorite day of the week, because what I'll do is I'll actually take my planner out and write out every single thing that's in my calendar on my computer in my written planner. I love it. It is like a brain moment for me. It's very clear. And I feel really excited to take on the week at that point. I will tell you, there have been weeks that I've not done that, and my whole week feels like a cluster and a half. So something so simple, like people would be like, well, it's on your Google Calendar. I'm like, I know, I get it, but I need the pen and I need to write it down. And then I immediately return all of my admin emails. So if there's sales call follow-ups that I need to do to make sure that somebody I talked to last week can purchase if they want to buy this week, that's my very first thing. Mostly because during my day, all my time slots that are available are booked, right? They're calls that I'm on Zoom, or they're sales calls or things like this where I get to spend time with you. So I don't really have the time for that admin stuff outside of that. And so the morning time, if you get an email from me at 5 a.m., that's why, because I'm doing all of that stuff first. And then once those emails are done, I immediately go into who's my new relationship. So I do this in 2 places. Most of the time it's on Instagram. I would say 80% of the time, typically. And I'll literally, this is as simple as it gets. I will open Instagram and I will scroll. Like that's what I have a very specific category for each of the 5 days of the week that I focus on. But I'm scrolling in a specific area, right? So I have an intention, like, for example, if it's to get a pod or to earn the right to be on somebody's podcast, right? Or to create a relationship to have that. I will go to someone who I know, right? For example, let's say it is Phil Treadwell. Like we've already used his name, right? If it's Phil Treadwell, I'll go to Phil's account. Who has Phil recently been on a podcast with? Right. Where has Phil recently been at an event or something along those lines, right? And I'll click on those individuals, see if I know who that person is. So let's say you just interviewed Phil and I see that on Phil's account. I'm going to go to your account and be like, hey, Laura, I actually just interviewed Phil, right? And I'm going to create a bridge. Same thing for events, right? I've done a lot of work with the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. And right now I'm working on a new relationship in addition to that, that's in the mortgage space. And so I'm kind of creeping consistently as far as like, who are they interviewing or who are they having on? And then how can I build the bridge? So each morning I have a specific category: podcasts, events, webinars, all different kinds of categories for me. And that's where I focus and I send the message and I leverage a pre-existing relationship in doing so. And I'm grateful that I have so many relationships to be able to leverage, and that I have done a really good job at making my voice heard in that space. And then the rest of the week typically is private coaching calls. I have probably 5 to 10 of them a week at least. And these are private coaching clients that are paying for one-to-one time with me. And then I do anywhere from 2 to 3 podcast episodes a week, sometimes more. And then typically I have a webinar or 2 every week. So it's sort of spaced out throughout the 5 days. And then I have a really important Wednesday. So I have a Facebook Live that I do in my free Facebook group every Wednesday. And that's a really fun, creative time for me. I never go into it with a topic. I literally just go into it with, hey, this is what my week has looked like. These are the clients that I've been talking to, and here's what's on my heart. This morning I wrote a keynote about swimming, right? And the black line on the bottom of a pool. And it created the idea for me of what I want to talk about on Wednesdays. So typically I'll take whatever has been going on with a client or clients in the last week or so, and I'll create a Facebook Live out of that. But the one thing, aside from all the work that I want to share with you, Laura, because I think that a lot of people listening to this probably either need to hear it or know it and maybe aren't actually doing it. I'm a mom, I have a 2.5-year-old, and I am really adamant about blocked off time. So I will have people that will reach out. Can I meet you at this time? Or can we jump on a call at this time? And I've gotten really good at saying no, right? And saying, hey, that time doesn't work for me. And even in my heart, my business heart, I'm like, oh, I should really take that call. But at the same time, I'm like, no, this is my time to be a mom. So I actually have like blocked off mom time with Knox. So when he's not at school, I'm fully present with my little guy, because you can't get the years back, right? You can't get the time back. So I always lovingly say, like, that nobody's going to die, right? If I can't take that call at 10 a.m., nobody's going to die. We're going to just move it to another day. And so far it's been received, amazingly. And I also say, if you're not okay with that, you're probably not the right client for me.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, for me, when I was raising children, that wasn't as easy. Okay, that wasn't as easy because you were in an office environment where it was kind of like if you weren't there, you weren't there, right? Like it was seen. Now, but here's the difference. The other thing that's changed is now it's pretty much a 24/7 environment, meaning that just like you, I'm an early person too. So those 5 a.m. emails, everyone's used to my 5 a.m. emails. And I realized eventually that when you give people those boundaries where people know, to that point, what you said, if you email me at 10 o'clock at night, you're not getting a response until 4:30 in the morning. That is correct. You're going to get the response at 4:30, right? But for many, many years, I thought that I would be letting someone down if I wasn't available to them all the time. But then once those boundaries went into place, I realized exactly what you just said. And this is phenomenal advice for everyone listening out there. Okay. And this is not just for women, this is for all people out there. That when you put those boundaries in place, people will respect it and follow it. And to your point, Michelle, listen to what Michelle said. Michelle said, and if they don't understand it, they're probably not the right client for you. That's a very, very vital and important piece of advice right now, because that is extremely accurate. And sometimes when we're first starting in our careers or we're first starting a business, we think, oh my goodness, but it's a mistake. I can wholeheartedly tell you it's a mistake. Keep those boundaries, have that for yourself, because when you know that you have that special time with your little guy or your husband, partner, whoever's out there, you will be a better business professional because of that. And that's the reason why you have to have that balance. So thank you for integrating that into it, that yes, you have this strategy, you have this execution plan, you have all of this. And also, Michelle, you said something, we have a lot of similarity. I'm loving this. Again, I love these podcasts because I'm like, look at this person that I just got to know that thinks very similar to me. I am someone just like you. I use technology to the top, but I know that when I write something down, it's ingrained in my brain and it's connected to me. I use it to keep me focused and have all my technology pop-up reminders and everything else, but it takes me writing it. There's something about writing it that ties it to you that you will not forget it, and it's within your soul. So I totally agree. I don't know if that works for everyone, but yes, you and I are on the same page.
That's how I studied in college.
Me too.
How many people I graduated from Rutgers in 2012, and I remember going to classes and like everyone's got their laptop, everyone's frantically taking notes. I just think of like the calf gif or the cat gif that's out about right now with the cat like tapping the keyboard, like I remember seeing that, and I was always the girl. I had a bazillion notebooks. The start of the school year, I still did the same thing. I went to Target or Walmart or whatever and bought a crap ton of notebooks. Like I was always that girl, and the way I studied for every single test, the way I wrote essays, anything it was. I literally did it with my hand. Now, did it take me 5 times as long as somebody on a computer? Probably, yes. But did I graduate Rutgers with a 3.9? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, and how do we do that? For me personally, I don't believe that I was God gifted, super duper, super smart. But I do believe that God created me to be someone that was very resourceful and someone that was very gritty in the sense of like, I'm going to go figure it out. And whatever I have to do to be successful, I'm going to do that. And I remember thinking that was a big part of why I was doing that. I was like, this is how God wants me to study. And he's given me the talent.
It is, Michelle. Bottom line, you know what it is? Knowing yourself. Yes. See, what we're speaking about right here, like you and I, we're on the same page. We literally, our brains comprehend and absorb things exactly the same. So me and you are the same in that. But the other people listening to us, half of them will go, yes, me too. And the other people will be like, what? That's crazy. I couldn't even think about it. What it is knowing yourself. When you said you get up at 4:20, I'm a 4:05 girl. 4:05 is my time. I don't even know why I have 05, but for some reason in my brain, I feel like I got 5 extra minutes. So 4:05 is my time. Now, that's just me. That's just you. We work the best by getting up at that time, and that is our schedule. we're not telling everyone to go out and wake up at 4 a.m. If that doesn't work for them, if there are people that work better at 11 o'clock at night, sitting down and being creative, good for you. The point of it is exactly what you just said. Learning yourself, learning what works best, and knowing I thrive during this time. This is when my brain is firing. This is where my creativity comes from. This is when I'm inspired. But it's having a plan, knowing yourself, and action, action, action. Having execution. Whatever that looks like for you and your business, that's what you should be doing, right? That's what Michelle is telling you. She's giving you her particular formula. Take that formula and apply it to yourself, how it works within your life. That's the best way to approach it. I love it. All right, Michelle, we're bringing it home with, okay, so we learned that great advice from Phil. You're following it. We see how you're applying it. Love it. Now, if you were going to give your piece of advice to our entire audience of something from Michelle, what would that be that you would like to share with them?
I think for me, the number one piece of advice that, and I think I'm going to take the like daily execution of what I do for a living out of it, right? Because I could teach you how to actively prospect on Instagram like nobody's business. That would be easy for me. That's my love language, right? That's how I created who I am. But I think at almost 34 years old and being in business for almost 10 years, there's one big thing that I have learned that I really wish I could tell my 10-year younger self when I first started my company. And there are going to be a lot of people that are going to have opinions. There's going to be a lot of noise, right? And even in what I do for a living, I've learned to change the way I say what I do just to give me the peace of mind that I know I'm not like all of these other people, and I'm good with that. But what I will tell you is that there have been years, there have been days, there have been months and weeks, all the things where I'm like, am I a fraud, right? Like, am I actually not what I think I am or what the world is telling me I am, right? And in those moments, I'm reminded of the fact that I am the only version of me. There is only one of me. I have 15, 20, 30 emails that I've received just in the last few months from people who are wildly happy and excited about what they're doing with me. And so when you get the one, right, that derails you, or you see the one person that's getting an opportunity and you're kind of annoyed because you're like, really, I thought that would have been me that would have gotten that opportunity. I've learned in those moments that we are all in different seasons of life. We are all in different seasons of our business. We all have different strengths, and the voice that I have isn't for everyone, right? So if I didn't earn an opportunity, I don't believe, and to my core, I don't believe it was because they didn't like me. I believe now that it was because it wasn't my time with that person, with that organization, with whatever that was. And I've learned to believe that truly and like walk into that. Because I think as young business owners or as seasoned veterans in the business, we all fall victim to that. Like, why is that person winning and I'm not winning? Or why is that person succeeding and I feel like I'm flailing like all over the place. I just have taught myself to have the conscious ability to stop and say, it's not my time. Go focus on who I'm focused on. Go focus on what I'm doing. And then when it is my time, it will happen. So the mentality of patience, I think, is where I'm going with all of this. And the mentality of, if I do what I gave you guys before in this conversation, right? Go find one new relationship every day. If I do that and I can lay my head to rest at the end of every night, knowing that I successfully did that, 365 days from now, my business will look even more different than it does now, right? For the better.
100%. Patience, they say patience is a virtue, but it's a very, very hard lesson for all of us,
it really is.
And of course, you're speaking of imposter syndrome, which every single human suffers from, right? We all at some point in our lives feel like, am I a fraud in this particular situation, whatever that particular situation is, right? You are wise beyond your years to understand that, number one, it's normal to be jealous or look at something someone else is doing and saying, well, wait a minute, I'm more qualified, or I have more experience, or I have, we all have those feelings. But for you to have realized at your stage in the game that just wasn't my opportunity. That doesn't mean it's not going to wrap back around and come back for me a year from now, or 6 months from now, or 5 years from now. That doesn't mean that. It just means that that wasn't slotted for you at that particular moment. But that's still not a reason to stop. That's still not a reason to keep going for it. That's still not a reason to keep that relationship. Sometimes you see people actually cut relationships because they're like, well, they selected Bob, for this. Well, then that means I'm going to go in this direction. Wrong. They selected Bob at that moment. That does not mean that that's not Michelle's opportunity 6 months from now, right? So don't turn your back, for everyone out there. Don't turn your back on those opportunities. It just, to your point, just wasn't yours at that moment. That doesn't mean it's not yours the next day. And that one new relationship every day, that reminds me of your compounding, getting 1% better every single day. That's what you're doing. You're growing and you're compounding and compounding. Anyone that follows that mathematical equation in their business, you absolutely are building odds for ultimate success, for long-standing success, not temporary. So, Michelle, you are so on the right track. You absolutely are such a pleasure, and you are shining so brightly, and we are here to support you and celebrate you. And before I let you go, please, we'd like to know, how can people follow you, learn more about you, and know what you have to offer?
Yeah, thank you for that. That means a lot to hear, especially from someone who is as respected and seasoned in our industry. It's a blessing to hear that. So I appreciate you. Now, as far as getting me, the easiest way is Instagram. Berman Media Social is my Instagram handle. But just type in Michelle Berman-Mikel and it'll pop right up. I answer all my own DMs. I have lots of amazing conversations with people daily. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you're listening to this, and mention that you heard Laura and I, because I love being able to share that with someone like Laura, who's running such a successful show. So thank you guys for being just listening to me, is the other piece I'll say. Like, I know sometimes people will say, she's only 33, what does she know? And I think that that's changing a lot.
Well, I don't think age has a factor in anything. It makes no difference. It's when you know what you know, and the knowledge that you just shared was extremely valuable. I can attest to, I kind of follow the exact same formula bringing up in my career, and I attest to you that it works. And to anyone out there that is the seasoned veteran, I want you to replay this and really listen to some of the things that Michelle said. Because sometimes when you are a seasoned veteran doing something for a long time, you forget the things you did in the past that you may not be doing right now. So replay this, take a listen to it, because complacency is your enemy. And you want to make sure that you're doing your prospecting, you're going out and building new relationships, and you're diligent that you're doing it every single day. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing your wisdom with all of us. And again, we'll be watching and celebrating you, and keep shining brightly, my friend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.